When Sam Altman was asked, are we in a bubble? He said, yes, we might be in a bubble.
How does the AI economics are really working? So I'll give you a simple example.
Meet Manav Garg. He is the founder of Together Fund, which is the visionary firm fueling India's most explosive AI companies. Today, they back massive outliers in the market, including Emergent, which is the Indian startup that hit a staggering $15 million in ARR in just 90 days. And today, he is joining us to expose the terrifying speed with which AI evolution is happening. And he is handing us a survival guide for a world where you either catch the wave or you simply drown.
See, the next wave of opportunity will come in. Look at Google, the largest company on this planet in terms of search, highest market share, is trying to think through how will search experience totally collapse, right? So therefore the war has gone to browser.
I'm able to envision two businesses talking to each other using agents, and that by itself becoming a product.
In that case, what has happened is Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto has lost the customer access. So I think that's going to be a big fight is going to happen. Who's going to own the customer?
In this subjective world, how do you go there and find a problem that is worth solving using AI?
It's a brilliant question actually. If software is going to become a commodity, how much time will it take somebody else with a similar skill set to create a similar application? That is one framework I use. I just want to tell the founders out there, don't ignore Indian market. See, India is the second largest market for OpenAI. Even for Gamma, 9 million users out of 70 million are Indians.
What would you advise a student who's in engineering right now and is 21 years old? If an entrepreneur wants to get funded by Together Fund, how should they approach you and what should they prepare before they come to you? How do I not get killed because of a single OpenAI update?
Also, to the non-techies, the moment you hear AI, you might think this is a very, very technical podcast. But don't worry about it at all. Even though this podcast has certain technical terms, I will either explain the terminologies or we will put out trivias so that you are completely aligned all throughout the podcast.
Hi Manav, welcome to the Indian Business Podcast. Manav, you are one of the most successful SaaS founders in the country, and now you run a $200 million fund which invests in AI companies. So you are the perfect person to help us understand what is happening in this wild AI world that we're living in. Because what I find extremely wild about this space is that yesterday while we were speaking, you told me that Cursor is about to hit $1 billion in revenue. And this is a company that started in 2023. Lovable hit $100 million in 8 months. And your company, Emergent, hit $15 million in ARR in just 90 days. That is crazy. And while on one side we are seeing these companies pop up out of nowhere, on the other side, when Sam Altman was asked, are we in a bubble? He said, yes, we might be in a bubble. And because I studied the dot-com bubble, what I'm seeing right now is very, very similar to what happened during the dot-com bubble. And you were there during the dot-com bubble, so you witnessed this time very, very closely. So Manav, please help me understand today in this podcast, A, what is happening in this AI space right now? B, as an entrepreneur, how do I find the perfect gap in the market where I can build a company? C, if I have to get funded by Together Fund, how should I approach you? And most importantly, how do I not get killed because of a single OpenAI update? That is the agenda for today's podcast. Shall we get started?
Absolutely, I'm so excited. I'll try to actually share my mental models, whatever I know so far.
Sounds good. So Manav, let's start with the first question. What is happening in this AI race? How do we have billion-dollar companies popping out of nowhere? And what is happening?
If you take whole AI, if $100 are getting spent, 70 is going to compute and infra, which is NVIDIA and chip infrastructure and cloud hosting providers like Azure, AWS and so forth. Then $20 are taken by model training companies, which is your OpenAI and Anthropics of the world. Then you remain with $10, which is application layer. So we are actually now, historically, of course, if you look at Indian economy, it is service oriented or SaaS oriented, where we are able to understand how to create an application. Somebody did the research, we're able to multiply that research, putting engineering might on top of it and create a lot of applications from it. So we're playing in this 10 cent game, so to speak, right?
My question is there a particular framework that you would like to teach us which will help us find a proper gap in the market?
Let me try and give an example. So I'll take first Emergent, which is my favorite company right now, since I've spent a lot of time with Mukund. They've done a brilliant job in putting India on the world map, I would say.
Can you give us a brief gist of what Emergent does so that everybody's familiar?
So Emergent is a vibe coding platform. Vibe coding platform is in the previous word of creating a software. Like for example, if Ganesh has to create a software, today what is the process? You will go to a services company or you call a friend from engineering college saying, I want to develop an app for my teaching course. Then he will need a designer to design interface, right? So you need a combination of team that typically is offered by a services firm. And you will end up spending, if you're a European firm or a US firm, you end up spending anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 to create one application. Then you spend 20% of that on making changes on based on the business is changing. Then you will find some domain name. You will go to GoDaddy, buy a domain name called thingschool.com. So you will pay some money there. Then you will host it on Azure, AWS or a local data center and you will give some money to them, right? That's the typical, if you put the entire cost of stack, it is 100,000 plus another 20%, $20,000 on an annual basis minimum you will spend to digitize your offering or business. Now, when the AI wave coming in, the whole new era of vibe coding has come where this entire software creation process is automated, which means you don't need developers anywhere now. Now, if you have an idea, let's say Think School wants to get an app to automate Think School offering, you go to a platform like Emergent saying, okay, my persona is student between 15 to 20-year-old, they're looking for communication classes, these are the problems, can you build me an app? It will then magically bring an app to you within a span of 15 minutes to 1 hour. That's all it takes.
Wow.
Yeah. So suddenly, which took us in SaaS world 1 year or a simple app to create 3 months can be done in a matter of few minutes or under an hour. Now that is the timeline. The cost of that is perhaps you will spend $1,000.
That's it.
That's all. And if you look at the really production ready app, maybe you will spend $10,000 as against spending $100,000. So you get a 10x benefit in creating something which you never have the access. Number one. Number two, it has compressed from idea to creation in that time. I don't have to go to anybody and explain because a lot of translation, loss of translation happens when I go to somebody to explain. I can now figure out on my own what I'm actually needing, right? So that is the whole wave is called vibe coding.
You know, a few months ago, Weber was here. Weber Sisanti, he runs a company called Growth School. And when he spoke about vibe coding, we made a reel out of it. A lot of these software developers got angry, saying that, you know what, all of this is facade. How can you generate an app with just one prompt? So can you please tell them what exactly is the scope of vibe coding so that at least they open their eyes towards the opportunity and not just see it as a threat?
There are two things happening in vibe coding as a category. So I think the two viewpoints, I'll explain one. So now vibe coding, when we talk production ready app, why it was not solved? Because when the number of lines of code increase, it gets very complex. Managing that is very hard. So today, for example, Emergent can handle about 300,000 lines of code, which is pretty large code base. But when you go into complex apps, the technology is not there as of now to manage the large code bases and then solve the problems within that code base. So there always will be need of software engineers who can write proper systems, software systems, which can then help automate or create AI systems for the organization and enterprises. So it is not a threat to an existing developers. We talk about health a little bit when you were eating food, right?
Yeah.
You want to maybe handle your routine in an app. Here you have to pay $100 and the app is ready. And you can manage your meal, you understood what you ate, you can show it to your nutritionist, you can show it to your doctor, you can track on your own. So I am able to bring my ideas to life for the first ever time.
So what you're saying is that instead of seeing it as a threat, that they will take away the existing jobs, what they need to see it as a market expansion opportunity where people like Ganesh and Manav, who otherwise never thought of building an app for their food, will use vibe coding to build app for themselves, which expands the market.
Yeah.
And doesn't just shrink it.
Yeah, so I think that's actually the way to look at this industry. And engineers actually are in more demand right now. If you look at YC data now, I don't know whether you tracked it or not. So YC for all these years, average age was 30 years. For the first time in the last 2 years, average is dropped to 26-year-old. And 80% of them are engineers. This actually is a young engineers and young minds who are actually building apps faster, better, shipping at the velocities never happened before.
Manav, while this shift happens, what would you advise a student who's in engineering right now and is 21 years old? What should he do?
Okay, so I have this famous analogy. If you are an engineering student at 21-year-old, you're already empowered because you can build something. So if I was 21-year-old today, or even 19 or 17-year-old today, I will actually start building things and put it out there. Like you said, I think the Think School story is what resonating me most. You were very good in communication. You put some content out there. You say user love it. Okay, now let me put more. Whatever user don't love it, I'll change and put some more. It's the same process for a software developer or engineer. They are actually more equipped than because they have a software as a leverage, right? I'll create an app or a system. I put it out there. Nowadays, the distribution game is totally changed. I can go to Twitter, I can go to Instagram, TikTok, and I can actually use marketing to get the users to test my product.
Yeah.
If they love it, they will continue to stick on it. And then I know what's working and continue to double on it. And that's when the companies actually get created. Companies don't get created by saying, okay, let me look at this market opportunity, let's do this analysis, and then I will do this. See, that is very hard to do because you haven't had that life experience as yet. But you're able to understand the creation of the new word. So I would use that superpower and look at the problem I'm trying to solve and create a solution for it. That's the framework I would use.
So simple framework is keep looking for real problems and keep fixing them.
Yeah.
And keep putting your work out so that one fine day, you will eventually end up finding a problem that's large enough that millions of users are willing to pay for it, and that will then help you build a company. It's almost very similar to like starting a YouTube channel. You just find something that doesn't exist, you try your best and hope that the algorithm picks it up.
See, most people drop off because they're not consistent about it. If you go back into the stories, look at Facebook, right? How did Mark Zuckerberg, he put out something, okay, people have to know each other on the campus, let me put this, and it suddenly took off. Right? Actually, most of the stories have been found organically, actually. It is not the thought about a large market. That you can do when you have 10, 15 years experience behind you, you understand the domain, that's another way of creating the company. But most of the companies are also, a lot of companies get created organically as well.
Now, I'm interested in the application space because I can understand that as a non-technical person very well. So I would like to go deeper into it. I'll throw a problem statement at you and you tell me if this is something worth solving or not. Let's take Ditto. Ditto is my favorite company that sells insurance. They're the most ethical company in the country right now. And if you call them up and you tell them that I want to buy an insurance that you should not be buying, even if they make more commissions, they will tell you, Manav, this is not the right insurance plan for you. You should buy ABC insurance instead. I think all of this could be automated. And you tell me if my hypothesis is right or wrong. For Ditto, right now I have to schedule a call, then hope that I'm free enough to attend that call. Then I'll attend that call. I'll see all the explanation. Then I'll choose an insurance plan for me according to my affordability. The representative will talk to me about my life and understand my requirements and see what kind of plan do I require. And eventually, after that is done, I'll be sent a link. I have to make the payment and then I buy the insurance. In my head, it seems as though all of these things can be done by AI very, very easily. I don't need to schedule a call if I simply talk to a bot which speaks as well as a 11 Labs bot. It'll be good enough for me to tell them everything. The data can be used. That data can be matched with a particular insurance plan that will be worthy for me. I can be given 3 options. And just like you've got Zomato support, where you're always given 3 or 4 options to choose from to be able to solve your query. Just like that, if I pick one such insurance plan and then the payment link is sent to me, I make the payment and buy the insurance, the entire process can be done in about 35 to 40 minutes. Then if I have to claim, again, if I opt in for a similar process that helps me claim the insurance, then everything that Ditto does can be automated. Now, to me, this looks like a hard problem to solve. Do you think this is a worthy problem to solve and build an application software on top of it?
Yeah. So now question is, the way you explained is the workflow, right? What you explained to me workflow. That I first call Ditto. They send me some plans. I look at it, I choose one. They explain to me, then I maybe choose next. Then send me a payment link, I pay. And when the claim comes, I go to a particular site, tell them customer support agent, help me through 5 steps of. So what I call is a workflow automation. Now in this inherent example, if I may be very direct, we have assumed that I will simply automate my existing workflow process. That I don't think is at least my mental model of thinking about AI. I think about how will the future insurance look like and draw to where I am today. So if I'm creating a system today, I will not think about what is happening today at all actually. I will think about 3 years down the line. When AI is even more developed, when I have more tools, it has memory, it has voice, it has more research, model has 10 more versions out there, it's much more intelligent than it's today, or 2 years down the line, what will that AI insurance look like? Use the word bot. It is assumption that I will build on a bot. Maybe I don't need a bot. Maybe by that time, now let's do this a little bit more thinking. 2 years hence, memory will really handle properly. They'll be able to remember every single habit I have. Maybe the system has already learned in 2 years. I'm talking about 2027. Let's say we are in December 27 today, before New Year's. By that time, AI will know a lot about Manav. They will know he is a founder of Together Fund, founder of Eka before, he's from small town Punjab, his preferences are like that, this is my financial model, and this is the kind of insurance I need. So bot, by that time, AI, whatever that form is, already knows Manav's profile, financial profile, risk profile really, really well, right? By that time, insurance company systems would have also updated. So now maybe agent talk to insurance agent and figure everything out. Workflow is not even required. There's no workflow required. It only pings 5 insurance agents, one agent from Ditto, one from New India Insurance, one from Tata AIG, and agents talk to each other and figure out, okay, this is the best plan. And by that time, the agent is also able to negotiate. Today, agents cannot negotiate. There's no human involved in this so far. Agents negotiate with each other. And by that time, there is also payment infrastructure for agents. See, today there is no authentication framework for agent infra. So there's a huge payment infra has to be created for agentic commerce or agentic payments. That also is lined by Stripe or Paytm or all the Google Pay have enabled that, or UPI has enabled that. So it's already also able to take my authentication, authenticate system, pay and come back. Nothing else. I don't have to do anything.
Understood. So let me reimagine this now. Okay, let's say I'm wearing a Whoop and I use an iPhone.
I also wear an Altman.
Okay, so Whoop is tracking how much I sleep. Whoop is tracking the strain. My Apple Health knows how much I walk. My LinkedIn profile knows my location, which is Mumbai, a polluted city. If you're living in Delhi, then though you will be sold the best insurance plan in the world because of pollution. So now all my devices can tell the AI about my location because I'm a founder, so it will assume that there's a lot of strain. It will go and verify that through Whoop, understand that yes, this guy sleeps less, the strain is very high. And also on the basis of Blinkit, they'll also be able to see if I smoke. Because if I buy cigarettes, then I'll search for cigarettes on Blinkit. So with all this data, because of AI infra, all this data can be retrieved and can be sent to an insurance company. And that insurance company will then have an agent, which will then say, these are the 3 plans that Manav must subscribe to. And all you have to do is just choose A, B, C. That's it.
You don't have to choose. You may have your AI agent of your own. By that time, you may have an AI agent which is learning about you every single time. Like when you're talking to me, your agent is learning, oh, that's how Ganesh talks, this is what Ganesh needs. You can tell your agent X, what is the favorite character name? You can give say whatever name is, okay. Go, Jarvis, go and find me the best plan. It'll go and find and tell you, Ganesh, this is the best plan for you. Basis this. I have this data, I have analyzed this. It can give you the entire analysis of how they arrived at this best plan. And this is what I need to pay. And you just authenticate to your voice, okay, go and pay head 10,000 rupees a month, and I'm a user of this plan.
Got it.
Yeah.
So if you were to build, an AI company in this space to solve this particular problem, what would you build?
Yeah. So now, therefore, I'm working actively launching initiative next week. This entire space is called agentic commerce, not agentic shopping, but agentic commerce.
Agentic commerce.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain?
So today, basically, your commerce experience is search, browse, and then purchase. Search and browse take 95% of time. 5% is then checkout and finally everything else, right? So that search browse experience will move to agentic basically. That's what we just talked about in insurance also. Your entire experience is basically search and browse. That entire experience will get collapsed into agentic form of buying. In a nutshell, I'm just at a conceptual level.
I love how you put it. You said search, browse, purchase. Right now, purchase is the only thing that is very efficient.
Yeah.
But searching and browsing is where most of the industry, in fact, I can think of billion-dollar companies that exist only on the basis of search and browsing.
Yeah.
Policy Bazaar.
Yeah.
Right? All they do is help you search and browse. But you're saying that search and browsing can be automated to an extent where you don't have to spend time at all on searching and browsing. Then my question is, how do you envision Policy Bazaar to evolve?
So today a lot of people search and browse because you have time at hand, you love looking at fashion. Look at fashion is one category which is totally built on search and browse.
Correct.
I love seeing beautiful clothes, everything else. I can imagine how will I look like, right? So then you'll have more time. So therefore, entertainment industry will bloom. So the opposite effect of that is when you have more time at your hand, you have more time to entertain yourself. So entertainment industry, the media entertainment also bloom. People listen to your podcast more. People listen.
That's what I was thinking.
So that's the impact you look at a macro level. And when I'm designing a product, now I have to design like that. But if I'm designing a new Policy Bazaar, I actually talk about all those things. I will bring health data, I'll bring all the insurance data, I'll bring financial profile, and ultimately start giving you the entire agentic experience of buying. Then I'll become a Policy Bazaar myself.
So what you're saying essentially is that Policy Bazaar has to think about its existence to the destruction of its old systems.
Yeah.
And replacing its old systems with a new system that doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, that exactly is the problem we're facing. So if you look at it globally also, Google is the only company which is a full stack company. And Meta is kind of trying to get there.
What do you mean by that? Can you explain that to a non-technical person?
We discuss all 4 layers. It has a chip layer, it has then what do you call
Foundation layer.
foundation layer. Then you have the infra layer application. Google has products in all the categories. So they have everything. So therefore, Google is able to reinvent itself. It looks very slow to us, but actually it is not slow. They're doing it systematically. I think they will have a great chance to win.
So Manav, now I'm again confused. You are telling me that a company like Policy Bazaar has to rethink its existence because search and browsing will become automated. Now, every idea that I can think of possibly involves search and browsing only. Even in fact, even if I think about Zomato, right now we order from Project Hum, right? You know, a week ago, I tried ordering from Project Hum through an agent, okay? Because Project Hum का जो वर्सोवा वाला store है, वो Zomato पे listed नहीं है. The workflow was pretty simple. You have to call Project Hum, place the order, ask porter to go and collect it, put the address of the office, put the address of Project Hum, he will go and collect it, payment has to be made, and the delivery can arrive. It was pretty simple. That's when it got me thinking, why do I need Zomato? I can simply say, hey Siri, please get me XYZ sandwich from Project Hum, and the sandwich can arrive. So everything that I can possibly think of right now is about searching and browsing because those are the kind of products that we use every single day.
That's the first wave, I would say first wave of companies, which is good for internet or that's the wave we are at. We talk more wave from here on. So search and browse experience definitely is going to collapse.
So how do we think about an idea? Again, I don't have any idea.
Let's drill down to that. Let's take example of delivery, right? So the core value proposition of Zomato and Swiggy is also the infra they control, which enables the delivery to come in a predictable time frame to you. Okay. If they say, Blinkit says or Instacart says it will be with you in 10 minutes, it is there in 9 to 11 minutes, right? So that part, that supply chain, we have to break down into smaller components and understand who's controlling that supply chain. So that will always remain valuable because delivery infrastructure will build on some logistics support in the end, right? Now that, therefore, they'll give you, moment I collapse search and browse experience, there'll be fight to who will own the customers. Today, Zomato and Swiggy are the brands. So the biggest fight which we're going to happen now is basically everyone is trying to launch their own agents, right? Amazon launched Rufus. Rufus has increased the conversion rate of Amazon in a big way, which is again an agent on top of Amazon. So every single company is trying to build their own agents to give you that experience, which will collapse your search and browse experience. But now, as a user, I am independent. I don't want to use 5 agents of 5 different companies.
Correct.
And that is where the OpenAI's or the word or the venture that we are launching going to talk about that. OpenAI is also coming in commerce now. Within chat window, for example, they're beginning to do that. It's a big area of focus for them, where you can shop and order everything else. Think a window like a ChatGPT. This is what I can think right now. So maybe we don't even chatbot going forward. I say, you order, Manav is coming. Manav loves healthy food. He loves, he wants the protein in the afternoon. Go and find me these 2 things. He'll go and find an order also for you. You don't even know who ordered. But in that case, what has happened is Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto has lost the customer access, right? Customer is with ChatGPT in this particular case.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a big fight is going to happen. Who's going to own the customer? And customer may independently think, okay, I am going to create my own agent. I don't want to do the hassle of 5 different or 100 different agents to talk every day. Why don't I have my own agent? Somebody gives me my own agent who knows me, knows my interests, takes care of my interests, and that agent then it talks to everybody. So we're going into the world where agents will talk to each other. We are going to definitely into that era right now.
Got it. Understood. Manav, let's talk about GTM. You know, I was reading this newsletter by Jafar Migdad. He's a product lead at OpenAI. I'm taking his course also. And he speaks about the same thing, finding the right problem, making sure that you have enough barrier to entry, making sure that you keep on collecting proprietary data, because after a certain point in SaaS, it was very difficult to build the product. And it was very easy to distribute the product to people because with usage, your profit margins don't go down. So unlike SaaS, in AI, as the customer starts using your product, your profit margin will start shrinking because of token usage. And he spoke about GTM. And I want to understand your opinion on how can I take the product to the market. And I also want to understand, if you can help me understand, when Jafar Migdad says that distribution is one of the biggest moats in AI, what does that even mean?
Okay, so I'll actually give an example of one of my current favorite companies, Gamma.ai.
Gamma.ai.
Yeah. So Gamma.ai is automating the presentations. Now, the rule number 1 is once you have a product love you want to build a distribution. Now, what is the first step to build distribution on any presumer product, which a consumer will consume directly, is user influencer marketing. So now the first mistake which most people make is that they are very narrow in their approach. So first rule of thumb, so far, the learning is you get a bit more broader in approach because you do not know what is going to work, what is not going to work. So you have to go a little broader in approach.
What does that mean?
See, for example, let's say I want to create an edtech product. So my first instinct would be that I will go to all the edtech influencers and advertise on their channels, right? Now, maybe the fashion influencer is also a very good influencer because same persona is also going to a fashion influence. Same persona is going to a student is going to a young Gen Z fashion influencer also. So I would actually should also go and make them recruit them as my influencer. So like that, you have to go more broad-based and more lateral in your thinking when you think of creative influencer-based
Why
marketing.
so?
Because people get affected from different people, right? I may have trust in somebody which is not direct. The correlation is not always direct in the internet economy.
Okay, so let's take a finance product. If a finance product is being promoted by a fashion creator, the likelihood of conversion over there is very less as compared to a finance creator promoting a finance product, right?
Yeah. So I'm okay. So if we take a finance as an example, right? Somebody like you could also be very effective, though you are in education and you're doing some trying students how to learn MBA, right? You're not linked to finance as such, but maybe you can create a course on it, which can be very helpful for the user, right? Maybe you can distribute the app through your platform, which could be very useful for them. So you have to think more broader in that perspective. Now, Ankur Varuko, of course, is known influencer in India who is known for finance, right? You go to him, of course, you will definitely go to him, but you can also go to 10 other influencers which are adjacent to you. So you have to go a little bit more broad-based.
Got it. Got it. So you're saying that when you say broad, don't go so broad that your product is being promoted by irrelevant niches, but go broad enough so that you don't restrict yourself to just one niche.
Yeah, think of adjacencies basically. So you diagram, put adjacents. The Venn diagram will be what are the adjacent industries to finance industry. That is all education industry, all the teachers will come into play, all the wealth managers will come into play. So you go to adjacent circles and also capture the adjacencies around it.
Sounds good.
You have the main industry influencer and you have adjacent influencers.
So the first method to distribute a product very quickly is influencer marketing.
Yeah.
So guys, you can sponsor Think Schools podcast. Link is in the description. Okay. Next.
So then you have to give it 6 months. You have to create enough budget, which is about 10 to 20K a month right now. You can't say
Dollars.
Dollars, yeah. 10 to $20,000 a month. For 6 months, you have to try that out. You can't simply say, I will do it 15 days and then my budget is only this much. So which means you have to have $100,000 to $200,000 budget to make sure that you give enough time for it to do it. Number 3 is don't give them the script. Most of the people give the script. Okay, I'll give the script to Ganesh or Manav and they will just write this and post it on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, right? That looks like an ad which algorithms are able to figure that out because it repeated multiple times. Yeah. It'd rather be organic. It'd rather be the two creation, basically. That seems to work better than giving a scripted, which works like an ad. An ad get then caught by the algorithms in a very different way. That's the third learning in the influencer marketing.
Okay.
So now, let's say in the first 3 to 4 months time, you begin to build your product, influencer-based marketing, you will start seeing some level of success, assuming your product is gaining that love on the market. Second mistake which people do is they don't invest in the brand much often.
What does that mean?
I'll explain to you. So let's say you got 100,000 users in the first 3 months of the marketing campaign that you started with influencers. Now there's a trade-off at that point in time. I have $1 million more with me. Should I put now 800,000 of that in more influencer marketing, right? I go and recruit people in the US, I take my product global, and I spend more money in influencer marketing. I go to performance marketing, I start serving ads on LinkedIn, I start serving ads on YouTube, right? So performance marketing kicks in. So basically after influencer marketing, typical step is a performance marketing because you know what, your early understanding of what is working, right? And then you can go to performance marketing. But before performance marketing actually comes the brand. Because brands give you consistency of the message. Brand gives that simplicity of message which lands well with the users at a large scale. So many people actually skip that process because branding is an expensive step in between. So branding actually does help.
And what all variables will you include in branding?
Your value proposition communication, your taglines, your color, brand identity, logo. Like Lovable has done a beautiful job with that. Everybody knows Lovable, right? You look at it, Lovable is a great brand name. They have a heart. The color is all gradient in nature. So they did a very, very good job. So they hired an agency in the US, which actually created the entire brand positioning for them. So branding includes positioning. It includes communication. It includes brand logos, creating an identity of what offering that you have basically. So once you that is landing well, then it brings consistency in the message, because you will see in the early stages of startup, a lot of time the message on the on influencer marketing in Instagram or LinkedIn doesn't resonate with the landing page. You go to landing page, some other message starts showing up, right? So the consistency of the message get lost if you don't have a brand communication sorted out. So that brings the consistency with the user. So the user journey becomes very, very seamless, right? If I told you I'm the best in prototyping, which is in case of Lovable, from the time I start interacting with you on social media to the time I'm actually using the product, it'll remain consistent from first interaction to your last interaction, and it stays consistent for the engagement of these things. That's the second. So I think investing in that brand is really important, and then you start layering performance marketing on top of it. That's the second learning that we are kind of seeing. Now the ultimate objective is what? That you want to get more organic growth than inorganic growth, because inorganic growth, which is the paid growth, is very expensive in nature. So typical metric for that is that by 6 months or 4 to 6 months time frame, it should be between the organic growth should be 50% plus. If it is less than that, it's extremely expensive. Your customer acquisition cost is going to go through the roof.
What do you mean by organic growth should be 50% plus?
Which means people are loving your product so much they're referring. They're saying, oh, Ganesh, look at this iTunes. It is so beautiful. I went there, listened to the song. I paid $1 and I was very happy.
So referral rate must be 50%.
Customer that comes through that word of mouth, basically, it's the word of mouth or referral, what do you call. Referral also has a technical meaning right now. There are a lot of referral networks that works right now, which are paid networks. I'm talking about unpaid, basically, word of mouth. Word of mouth is the right way to look at it. Where you love the product and saying, love the color of the jacket you're wearing. Can you tell me which brand it is? And you will go and buy the same brand because it just looks so good. You feel so good to you, right? So that is the word of mouth. So that typically should be above 50%. And that will also true test for you to really see that my product is being loved by the user.
Understood.
And once you get to that, this is the last point in that, then the third point comes in, then you work on product improvement so that every product improvement gives you more conversion. And that's how the organic engine starts coming in. And since you're improving, all your energy is going in improving product, you then get into, therefore, much more retention.
Let me ask you a better question. How do I become a world-class product guy?
Typically, good products are built on simple insights. So typical good product managers are very good observers. They're able to understand the pain point, the core pain point really, really well. It's like a doctor. When we go to doctor, we talk, doctor, my head is paining, my hand is also paining, and I can't sleep in the night, and I have this problem, right? But doctor says, no, maybe you have a viral, right? All the symptoms that you put together actually leads to only one problem. Or doctors say maybe your headache is happening because your throat you must be having a pain in the throat. Therefore, there's the headache, right? So doctor is able to relate the 5 symptoms that you tell him to one single problem. So typically good or excellent product managers are able to identify that one single problem which will solve most important pain point that a person or a user has. And that's how a very good company is built. So Gamma is a perfect example of that, where they built a $100 million business which is profitable. And they've just raised capital at $2 billion plus valuation right now. Unbelievable story of how to build an organically good business in this era of AI.
Beautiful. So GTM, after you build a substantial product, would be to use influencer marketing, have a budget of $10,000 to $20,000 per month, give it 6 months so that you have enough users on board, don't give creators a script, then invest in brand, which is positioning, communication, logo, and identity. Once you do that, then you can also infuse money into performance marketing so that you can get more users. And once you've got a very good understanding of your customer persona, performance marketing will pick up. And while you do all this marketing, you have to ensure that 50% of your customers are coming because of word of mouth and not because of your marketing budget. And as you keep getting more and more users, if you can collect feedback from the users and keep improving the product, that is how you can build a proper virtuous cycle.
Absolutely. So the 2 examples, Cursor has also done it really beautifully. And the founder of Gamma has put a big post on it. They just raised big round. So you should all go and listen to the video that he has put out there. There's a learnings from him, some of it from our organic learning from portfolio, which they may not have done most beautifully, but that's the best way to run. Presentation.ai is also profitable. They're at $8 million scale, and they're also profitable.
Got it.
And second, I just want to tell the founders out there, don't ignore Indian market. That's a new learning for AI era, by the way. See, India is the second largest market for OpenAI. Even for Gamma, 9 million users out of 30 million, 70 million are Indians. So India is also a big market. Technically, most of the time we ignore Indian market and we still straight away go global.
Yeah.
So that's another big thing. I also want to take some time to explain the economics of how it works. The question that you asked before the go-to-market.
Yeah.
As to how does the AI economics are really working. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you have 100 rupees. People talk about negative gross margin to start off.
What is that?
Negative gross margin, which it simply means is that if I spend, like you also said, think school is building an app, for example, right? So today what happens is, when people say I have a negative gross margin of 10%, which means I have $100, I have $100 of revenue coming in, or I have $100 to spend. $110 are going into, are consumed by LLMs, either Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever it is, right? So they are taking $110 from that. It includes your infra cloud cost also. Then you have a customer acquisition cost, which we spoke about, right? That takes another $30 to $40.
How much does infra take up on an average, Manav?
Infra means cloud.
The cost of LLMs and cloud.
That's what I'm saying, 110. If 100 revenues,
110.
Yeah, so it's negative gross margin. That's what is happening right now. So if you have 100 rupees, $100 coming in, 110 will get paid to LLMs and cloud. That's the current cost structures of in the starting point of launch, first 3 to 6 months of launch. Then $30, $40 will go on your influencer marketing or marketing as such. And then 10, 20% will go on your product. So that's how you start with a negative gross margin. Therefore, the money required is huge. Now, the word view is that the cost of LLM is coming down drastically and the gross margin will improve because your cost of LLMs are going to come down. So therefore, what is the most inefficient cost is the marketing cost. So therefore, the efficient growth is valued the most. Now, if I can acquire the consumers organically, we just explained in the previous example, my 30-40% cost will collapse to 10%. And I put the same cost into product and engineering, which means my product is getting better. That's the real mantra of understanding AI economics. And then when the LLM cost goes down, which it is going down, you will start turning profitable. And also, as you will improve your product, you will also be able to use the LLMs in a proper way. Today, what happens is you throw the entire data set to LLM and the cost of consumption goes up, token consumption goes up. Now, as your engineering and your product prowess comes into play, you understand, okay, I don't have to send every prompt to the AI. Maybe I cache something. I already know user is going to ask this 100 times. So therefore, I already store it rather than going to LLM every single time. So therefore, your usage of LLM also become efficient and the cost of LLM will come down. So the gross margin turns therefore much more positive.
Got it. This is called caching, right?
Yeah, caching, yeah. So therefore, the AI economics have to be understood really, really well. And this AI economics, therefore, cost of customer acquisition in the first 3 to 4 months plays a very big role. If you get on to a good start on organic growth, you will really, really acquire very, very efficient growth.
Got it. Manav, I had a very simple question to ask. You know, ChatGPT, OpenAI right now is incurring a $5 billion loss. Okay. Do you think it is sustainable? Because although everybody is saying that the cost of LLMs will go down, the losses are not coming down at all. How are the LLM costs going down when the losses are not coming down?
So what is, I explained at the start of the podcast, that 70% is going to actually the infra, the GPUs and the infra data centers and all this, the cost of energy and everything is going there. So that is the reason if you look at OpenAI is going and having all these data center deals that is happening around the world. They're also buying stake into AMD, right? 10% or whatever percent they bought into AMD. So unless you reduce the cost of the 70%, your overall cost can only, then 20% of cost is the data cost. They have contracts with New York Times, they have contract with Reddit. You hear all this contracts, which is an acquisition of data because they have to continue to train the models on that, right? So the 70% cost will actually, when people say LLM cost will come down, it is the cost of chips and that entire infrastructure will get collapsed. So that's the cost we're talking about. Even if the model training cost remains at 20%. So therefore, they have to become a full stack. That's the reason I gave example of Google in the middle of the podcast, that you have to control the entire stack eventually to be able to bring down the cost of eventual offering to the customer. So that's how, therefore, that becomes your defensibility now, right? So LLM can continue to improve. I can continue to switch. I can also give the power to the user to choose which LLM they want to use. Then the power is in the, so Emergent has done that, for example. If you go to Emergent today, you can say you want to use Cloud Code, which is the default option, but I can also use Gemini and I can also use Anthropic and I can also use any open source LLM, right? Suddenly, therefore, user now decides how much money I want to spend for what quality output I want. Think about that also, right? Because now, today, we are assuming the system should decide. Why should system decide? As a user, I will see the value, okay, I may not need the best draft. I am letting a letter to my wife. Yes, it is not the best. I don't have to spend, $1,000 for that. Maybe I spend $100 and that itself can make her happy, right? And I can use open source for that. That's another way to think about it, where you can also pass on that power to the user's hand to decide which LLM is giving you the best output. But then you become that orchestration layer in between, And therefore, there's a defensibility you have built, right?
Guys, before we move ahead, let me quickly explain what is an orchestration layer so that even the non-techies can understand this in the simplest possible way. You see, today, AI models are incredibly smart, but the problem is they're also chaotic. They sometimes skip steps, they get confused, and they're sometimes also unreliable. So, the orchestration layer fixes this problem. It forces the AI to follow a strict system. So, it locks the sequence of tasks, it secures the memory, and manages failure by catching errors and forcing a retry. Think of it like answering a two-part question. What is the population of the capital of India? If this question is asked to AI, to answer this, you need a step-by-step order to be followed. So in this case, the orchestration layer forces the AI to do certain steps. In step number 1, it will identify the capital of India, which is New Delhi. Secondly, it will carry that specific city name to the next step. In the third step, it will search for the population of New Delhi. And this way, the orchestration layer ensures that the right order is followed every single time and you receive the desired result.
Manav, the last question that I have for you is, if an entrepreneur watching this episode wants to get funded by Together Fund, how should they approach you and what should they prepare before they come to you?
So far, just to give you context, we have invested in 40 companies. We have deployed the largest early stage investor in AI today. We have deployed about $110 million so far in all these companies. So we've taken large risks with some founders. Like Emergent, we gave $5.5 million check. Some we have given $1 million check, for example. Metaforms was a smaller check on the other hand, right? So we can write check from 500,000 to 10 million, actually at a seed stage. So which means take large risks at a very early stages. Now, what really drives our decision making, right? So first, we are a founder first investor. So first is the founder himself or herself. We look for purpose-driven founders. See, our tagline or internal thought processes, we want to find Olympic champions. And the reason for that is both Grish and I, when we started this fund, we build our careers, we have built enough money at least to live our life comfortably, right? So we are truly a purpose-driven fund. We're saying, okay, we want to put India on the AI, global AI map. So how do we build India into AI nation? For that, we think we need to build Olympic champions, much like in sports, we didn't have many at that about 5 years back. So we're looking for Olympic champions, which means more purpose-driven founders. So for example, when you meet Mukund, you meet Som for Composio and Akshat, and many other founders or Bridge from Spry, they're all purpose-driven founders. They have a purpose to build something really valuable, purpose to change the industry there. So they're looking at word-changing products, right? When you Mukund, who's a founder of Emergent, he will say, I want to own the word. Maybe I can create a full stack offering, I can create my own foundation model and compete with OpenAI one day, right? So they're all looking at purpose, right? So we are purpose-driven. Therefore, we look for that are you purpose-driven or are you in for short-term? Both are fine, but we are resonating more with a purpose-driven founder who are looking at word-changing outcomes. Second, which I've spoken a lot about it in this podcast and otherwise as well, they have to solve a hard problem and not have a hacky way of doing it. You can iterate it, you can hack and then land on a hard problem, which is also fine. But eventually, we should be able to see that you are solving a hard problem or have the intention to solve a hard problem.
So how do you define this problem as hard?
So first of all, every founder thinks he's solving a hard problem, like
Correct.
you said, because you're solving a problem. And to you, it's a hard problem, therefore you are kind of solving it, right? So hard problem has a context, which I said, if software is going to become a commodity, how much time will it take somebody else with a similar skill set or even a little bit better skill set to create a similar application? That is one framework I use, right? If I have to create one more thing school, it is very hard because you have distribution now. You have 4.7 million viewers or subscribers to your channel. Even if I create something, it's going to take me a few years to get here. So you have a 3-year lead time, correct? So you think of a lead time. So in case of Emergent, I'll go back to Emergent again, or even a Composio, right? So Emergent has today 3 million apps on the platform, 3 million apps.
Wow.
So amount of data they generate from that app, they have understanding of what is working, what is not working, what feedback loop systems are working, which apps are more popular, where should they optimize the algorithm they're writing, right? Now that a new incumbent will find it very, very hard to do, right? The third point then is, if we really solve that hard problem, how the market will look. Like in vibe coding, if non-technical users can use it, it's a massive, it's a $1 trillion or multi-trillion dollar industry. I don't have to think about the industry, right? So similarly, in MSK market is a very large market, and people could not see that it can be a large market, but we could take the call, it will become a large market. So either you are in an existing market, which means you're looking after existing revenue pool, or you are into a new market, which is a habit forming market. So in AI, the word is divided into two kind of market. Either you go after existing revenue pools, or you create a new revenue pool. So we look at that and have a viewpoint on that. We may not be right all the time, and market may evolve, it is changing every single day. So these are the three main things that we are looking for in a founder, and we are able to take large risk. I think large risk taking actually will then come into play, where we give enough freedom to the founder. We believe we work for the founder and not other way around. We will sit with you, we will brainstorm with you, we will be there when you need us. So our role is like a coach basically. So if you take Olympic gold medalist is the ultimate objective, our role is to become of a coach, which means we are available when you need conditioning, we are available when you're down. So we will support you when you're down, when things are not working, which happens a lot in the startups, as you know. And we'll be a partner to brainstorm when things are going really well. So we are available for you 24/7. It's up to you how to use us. So we work for you instead of you working for us. So that's the kind of mental model we have.
That is one of the sweetest things I've heard from a VC man. So, Manav, if an entrepreneur has to reach out to you, how should they prepare so that when they come to you, they're well prepared?
I think actually, since the AI word is so new and any young mind can come and have a crack at it, I think I would say let's have a brainstorming session. So if you have to do preparation, you can come prepared with thought process on how will you create a word-changing outcome? How will things change? But I would love to do a whiteboarding session, for example, with you. Let's say if you were come for funding for your edtech app that you want to create, I would say, Ganesh, I will come to Bombay or come to Bangalore. Let's do a whiteboarding session, what it may look like. And is it really exciting for you? Is it really exciting for us? Actually, I would do a lot of discussion, brainstorming around that. I don't think you can capture the imagination in a slide deck in the word of AI. Yes, slide deck is one of the ways to communicate. You can communicate your idea, you can say what you're trying to do, but I would love to have a face-to-face or a Zoom-based interaction where we just brainstorm what we're trying to build.
And how would you choose to have a discussion with me? Because I would reach out to you via email. On what basis will you choose to spend 2 hours with me?
Yeah, so that is a brilliant question. We get 2,000 plans, right? And we cannot meet as a team. Maybe we meet 10% of them, which is still pretty high. 200 people we meet annually or sometime more. So if I were to choose, I would look at what areas really excite me. See, I am a thesis-based, founder first, thesis-based investor. If you look at my particular persona, right? I have certain view on certain industry, like you asked me. Fortunately, I know a little bit about the industries that you were talking about. I've thought about it. I myself imagine that if I were to create a company, how would it look like, right? So I'm excited by a few industries. So if it comes in that, I will immediately say, okay, fine, let's brainstorm and see what really can.
Which are those industries? Can you name top 3?
It keeps on changing. So in the application space, I love this entire SDLC automation. I don't call it vibe coding. I think a lot will be created in this. Emergent is managing the non-technical users. So there's a code review market. Poolside is creating the entire full stack in that for enterprises. Factory.ai is for enterprises. And India has a lot of expertise in that. We have 5 million developers who understand the SDLC really well. So I would still continue to look at this market. I think a lot more companies can be created in this market. So I'm very interested in this massive, large market.
Okay.
I'm very interested in voice as infra. I think whole interaction will shift to voice or a combination of voice and text as we go into the waves. I'm looking at memory in a big way. I'm looking at security, all forms of security, AI safety, cyber security. I think India has done very little in that right now, but it's a massive problem. Deep fakes, as you know, right? Everywhere AI security is a massive problem. As we get more adoption, safety has to be thought alongside, not as an afterthought. Or if you design for safety or security upfront. So privacy, security, all that is a great area of interest for me. And then I think I would say that as such, no industry is out of bounds. This is the top of mind right now, as we speak today. After 3 months, when you meet me, it'll be different because industry wave keep on changing, right? See, other themes which are exciting is I'll give you a little bit more framework for the industry. You pick any old industry where you have a large incumbent. I think you can create a parallel AI company. That's the way to think about it. So look at legal tech, look at HR tech, which we discussed, recruiting, for example. You look at the CRM space. Salesforce has 26% market share, very old software. You can get a very large outcome in that. Entire ERP space will get disrupted, right? ERP is SAP. The modern ERPs, AI ERP is going to look very different from what we had a clunky system. 50 to 60% of the time of the users today go in input. That all will change with natural language and the text-based inputs or voice-based inputs into the system. So boring industry, CFO office stack is the major. So that's the framework of thinking. So these are the areas which I am doing research right now myself, but it'll keep on changing every 3 months.
Perfect. Sounds good.
I just want to finalize with that in India, I'm actually very excited about the whole commerce. Again, I repeat that, agentic commerce in India and edtech and then healthcare. Very big topic. I'm looking for AI doctor company. If somebody has, I will happy to.
AI doctor companies.
Yeah. See, India has this massive rural versus urban divide. We have a shortage. We have 150, one doctor per 150 people as global average of 60 to 1 ratio. And then we have a urban to rural divide. So rural people don't get that access to the good advice on doctors. And AI doctor actually can solve it, provided we can bring accuracy in that, right? So I'm actually looking for a company in that. Same for EdTech also, massive impact, right? We have so much of rural India, right, who don't have access to that quality. So quality teachers are very small in India, right? Anywhere in the world, in fact, right? And we have that huge literacy issue. So how do I multiply it? So I think that AI in education can really solve that.
Got it. Thank you so much, Manav. This was wonderful. So let me just summarize this entire conversation that we had, and you tell me if there's something that I got wrong so that we can correct it for the audience. The first thing that we spoke about is while you try to build an AI company, try to find a hard problem to solve. And hard problems can be solved by, first of all, understanding what the future is going to look like 10 years down the line, and then reverse engineer to see what can you do today so that 10 years later also you can stay relevant.
10 years, I think, is too long horizon. I think 2 to 3 years. 10 years is very difficult to imagine right now.
Then we spoke about how to be a great product person. And there we spoke about the fact that your acumen of developing a product can be determined on the basis of whether you're able to segregate a key pain point from the symptoms. Because when you talk to customers, they will tell you all sorts of symptoms. All sorts of symptoms, like my head is paining. For example, you give the example of Amazon. If you speak to any customer about how can I make Amazon better for you, they will tell you all sorts of things like, I wish call nahi karna padta, I wish I didn't have to write that email, I wish I got better products, and so on and so forth. But nobody would think about building Blinkit. So a great product person will think about Blinkit through all the customer inputs which have nothing to do with the idea of Blinkit, because the customer will not tell you what to build. His job is to consume what you build for them. Then we spoke about the economics of AI, and here's where you mentioned that today most AI companies are in negative gross margin, because if the product is being served at $100, then $110 is going into infra, $30 to $40 is going into marketing, and $10 to $20 is going into product development. So we practically have no margin to play at the moment, which is why it is important to build a product that can get customer love, so that you can eliminate this 30 to 40 rupees cost, which is absolutely inefficient, and you can choose to either generate profit or reinvest that capital into product so that you can build a better product. That is how you can win in the market. Then we spoke about the GTM strategy, and here's where you mentioned that you need to use influencer marketing, which is one of the best ways to grow in today's market, where you need to have a budget of $10,000 to $20,000 per month. You need to stay patient for 6 months. You should not give creators a script, and you should invest in branding as well, which is a function of positioning, communication, logo, and identity. On top of that, if you deploy performance marketing, you will get a lot of users. But the key thing to note is that as you get more and more users, you should be able to make the product better and better so that you have word of mouth. And here you mentioned a very important metric that 50% of the customers beyond a certain point should be coming through word of mouth and not through performance marketing or influencer marketing. And one advice that you gave to all the companies using influencer marketing would be to go broad. Do consider adjacent categories and don't go too niche. At the same time, don't go so broad that you go to irrelevant categories. And then we spoke about the areas that you're interested in, where you mentioned SDLC, voice, memory, security, and any boring industry that exists today in a large market which can be disrupted using new ways of thinking.
The only correction there is, I think, the user can be technical or non-technical. It doesn't matter. It's not only for non-technical. Yeah.
Got it. Then we spoke about the 3 most important things that are required to build a great AI product. There you mentioned a world-class product, distribution, and capital. Capital today is available in abundance. Together Fund can give you access to capital. Distribution can be gained through influencer marketing, which can also be gained through capital. All you need to do is build world-class product. And here's where you spoke about Emergent. By the way, during the start of the conversation, we also spoke about search, browse, and purchase, where we had a long conversation about how search and browsing entirely will be disrupted in the next 2 to 3 years, which means large companies like Zomato and Policybazaar have to rethink the way they're existing today, because a large chunk of their business is on the basis of search and browsing. If search and browsing by itself is getting disrupted, which means new players will emerge in the market and new systems will emerge in the market. In that case, the infrastructure becomes the moat and not the core user interface. Then we spoke about Emergent, where they built a world-class product where if there was an operation which used to cost $50 to $100,000. On top of that, if companies were paying 20% for maintenance, Emergent was able to bring down the cost from $50 to $100,000 to less than $10,000, and they were able to decrease the turnaround time of the app from, let's say, 6 months to less than a month, which helps.
That's an hour
companies-
actually in this case, not month, hour.
Less than an hour, which helps companies go to the market very, very quickly, which ends up saving them both time and money. And that's where we spoke about vibe coding. And here's where you mentioned that it's not about vibe coding being a threat to the developers. It's about market expansion, which means more and more developers will get the opportunity to hop onto this opportunity, which means they can build companies of their own, or they can work for these companies, or they can work in companies that are supporting these companies. That, I think, summarizes all the important learnings from our podcast.
Absolutely. Love the conversation.
Thank you so much, Manav. This was wonderful. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, Manav. Thank you so much.